Hi, I'm Rich with Inside HPC, and we're here at SC14 in New Orleans. We happen to be at the EMC booth today, but we're working with their friends here from VMware, Josh Simons and Matt. How you guys doing?
Doing well, thanks.
All right. So Josh, we'll start with you. What are you showing off here today?
Well, so first off, the big thing from our perspective is that we're showing anything. This is the first year we've actually had a booth presence, right? So we have a demo station here in the EMC booth, and we also have a demo station over at the Mellanox booth. And we're showing a couple of things. One, we're showing self-provisioning of virtual HPC clusters in a cloud environment, in an ESX or VMware cloud environment. And the other thing that we're demonstrating in conjunction with Mellanox is the use of SRIOV to share access to InfiniBand cards from multiple virtual machines, which is really important if you're trying to get access to parallel file systems like Lustre, for example.
So you're showing this practical stuff that's running right here.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Now, I heard about some benchmarks. What's going on there, Josh?
Yeah, so we had an awesome intern come in from Stony Brook this past summer, Najang from, as I said, from Stony Brook, a PhD student. And she spent the summer doing FDR, InfiniBand, and Rocky-based benchmarks, looking at everything from the OFED level up through MPI level, looking at HPCC benchmarks, NAS parallel benchmarks, up to real applications like NAMD and LAMPS and MWChem. And way too many results to talk about here, but we're seeing very, very credible and good performance for a wide range of MPI-based applications on the virtual platform. That's above and beyond what we're able to do for throughput applications like BLAST and, say, other life sciences applications and EDA applications where we're getting, say, 99% of native performance with those kinds of apps. So we're really, really excited. And the last thing, or the latest thing that's happened, which I am really stoked about, is the fact that using an engineering build of our hypervisor, we're actually able to completely eliminate the overhead, the latency overheads running in a virtual environment with InfiniBand. So that, I hasten to add, does not mean that we're going to, totally have all MPI applications run at full speed on our platform, but it will definitely broaden the number of the number and kind of MPI applications that run on the platform.
Well, that's important because if you've gone to the trouble of going InfiniBand, latency is probably very important to you, right?
Yeah, it's critical, and we're doing the same kind of thing for Rocky as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Matt, you've been working with customers at that end of things. What's going on there?
Well, Rich, that's very interesting because VMware has a long established tradition of working in the enterprise space and adding value to customers running traditional enterprise class workloads. And I think that for a long time, people in the HPC space looked at VMware sort of sideways and thought, well, what do you really provide to us as far as value is concerned? And I get that question a lot when we talk to customers. What's interesting is that we're having customers engage us about what we can do to help them for their class of workloads. And so VMware has solutions in end-user computing, in hybrid cloud, in the software-defined data center, and those capabilities around agility, and the idea of maybe scientific agility, seem to be really appealing to these customers. And I give you examples of customers in life sciences, in EDA, as well as government laboratories running HPC workloads who want to bring that agility to their environments. And that's really where the interesting conversations are happening today with our customers.
I mean, like, you get these scientists and they got their thing, they wrote their code and they want to run as root like on somebody else's machine. That isn't too easy to make happen, is it?
That's right, and I would say that we're also seeing challenges for those reasons where new types of HPC workloads are working their way into universities, for example. So they may be somebody in social sciences or in the business school that would like easy access to HPC environments, but they may not have an easy way to consume that, or they may not be particularly interested in the technology behind that. They just want to get their research done. And VMware, through the principles of cloud computing, virtualization, and this idea of scientific or research agility, can provide that to them.
So help me out here, guys. Characterize this. In the life of an adult, virtualization for HPC, is it a teenager? Is it coming out of its 30s? Is it middle-aged? Or is it retired?
Oh, it's definitely not retired. I think it's entering its early teens, maybe. Yeah.
So it's fully grown, but it doesn't really know the world so much, and vice versa. Experience. It lacks experience.
It lacks experience, right? So I think the full-blown capabilities of the virtual platform are there, and what it needs to now do, that joining needs to have that experience, as you say, where where on the HPC side of the house, they understand what that value is so that they can then go take advantage of it. One of the things we run into when you talk to HPC folks is, and you say virtualization, what they think about is getting a VM off of, say, a public infrastructure. That's only the tip of the iceberg. The hypervisor is a critical piece of this, but as Matt was saying, all of the stuff you wrap around that in order to create a virtual platform. So things like resource management and security and fault isolation. There's a lot of other capabilities, and even things like billing and tracking what is actually happening within the platform are critical pieces of delivering a virtual infrastructure. And it's about teaching the HPC folks what we can bring to the table for them. So it's still early days, I would say.
Well, I got to ask you about Docker, because this is an exciting technology, right? And it's not from you guys, but I noticed that you have announced stuff that has hooks into Docker. Where do you think that plays in this HPC going forward?
Yeah, so I've had discussions with customers actually well before Docker ever appeared on the scene, where people that were wondering whether or not using a container-based approach would actually make sense for them versus going for a full-blown virtual machine-based approach. And it does make sense in some cases. So for example, I talked to a rendering house, and in their particular case, they have a very large rendering farm. They have no desire or need to, for example, host lots of different kinds of software stacks. It's a very, very homogeneous environment. And for them, it actually turned out that the capabilities of things like security, isolation, and fault isolation didn't really add that much value because they weren't doing any kind of multi-tenancy. And so for those sort of more uniform and maybe simpler cases, something like a container-based approach or a Docker-based approach actually could be fine. And from a corporate perspective, as you said, we've looked at that as a technology, and it's something that we understand that it should fit into the larger ecosystem of how people run applications, so for sure.
That's a good answer. So looking forward, we're at 2014, 2-3 years out, will virtualization be all around this floor? Predictions?
2 or 3 years out, I think it will be. Yeah, it'll be, I think we will finally have convinced the community that there's value in wrapping even their own on-prem bare metal resources in the kinds of infrastructure that we're talking about, because as Matt said, the agility and the flexibility that it brings you. Do you agree with this?
I would agree, and I'd even add to that, I think other things you'll see in this space emerging in the next couple of years will be things like social networking. Yeah. And the end user computing dimension to how people consume these and how they collaborate amongst one another. I think those will be interesting trends. And then I think the idea of network virtualization is going to be more and more important as you think about how do you connect disparate research entities and allow them to collaborate in almost sort of a research DMZ, so to speak.